Pool lights. They say a pool at night feels different, too still, too quiet, the kind of silence that hums against your skin. I was 17, a lifeguard at the town's community center, stuck with late shifts nobody else wanted. My flaw? I wasn't brave. I took the safe jobs, kept my head down, learned to count tiles for comfort. Watching an empty pool felt easy, until it didn't. On paper, it was a civic duty. Chlorine checks, tape the slips, sweep the deck. In practice, it was fluorescent flicker and the echo of my own whistle. The pool sat in a low, squat building behind the library, a rectangle of glass and concrete that smelled faintly of lemon cleanser and old sunscreen. Above it, the ceiling tiles were the right color of institutional beige to put you to sleep. Below, the water held a false kind of promise, a mirror that refused to return more than a pale blue glare. The town kids called the pool the lake in summer, which makes sense if you've ever seen a bunch of teenagers turn chlorinated rectangles into kingdoms. But after 9, the place dissolved into geometry, lanes, backstroke flags, a digital clock that glowed like a patient heart monitor. The night crew was me, the vending machine that never worked, and the skeleton crew of fluorescent bulbs. The first night it happened, I thought it was old wiring, a shutter in the lights, nothing more. I've worked with cheap municipal electrics. Light flicker is as common as algae. But the second night, the flicker came in patterns, like a person tapping the rim of a glass in Morse code, slow and deliberate. Pause, longer pause, pause. The reflection on the tile water broke into a stutter, as if someone below were nudging the surface to see if I was awake. There was no one else. The back door was locked. The clerk had gone home. I should have called facilities, filed a ticket for the morning. Instead, I stood at the edge with the whistle looped around my neck and felt the skin along my forearms crawl, that human little spark of animal chemistry which says don't. I told myself 1,000 sensible things, old ballast, condensation, your eyes playing tricks. I told myself I was being dramatic because a mixtape of horror movies had taught me how to be afraid. But there's a part of being 17 that reads signals differently. You mistake loneliness for courage, or courage for curiosity. I leaned over the pool, listening to the water breathe, and when the lights blinked again, 3 short, 2 long, I heard it with a certainty that scared me more than the flicker. It sounded like a name. Not mine, not yet, but close enough to the syllables that live in you like teeth. I clipped the whistle to my lips and blew once, a clean, professional note. A laugh, small and wrong, answered. Not from the locker room, not from the office, but from under the water, like someone had learned how to hum through a throat of tile. My head dialed back into myth and memory, drowned children and playground tales, the kind of small-town ghosts you teach one another over soda at midnight to scare each other into bravery. I walked away from the side to fetch a flashlight and, call it teenage superstition or a better sense of self-preservation, I told the empty pool out loud to stop being dramatic. It answered by making the lane marker ripple, slow as a finger passing under silk. That was the day being a bystander ended. I began to count differently after that, laps in my head, not of swim strokes, but of possibilities. Wiring, prank, animal, or something older, patient, that had learned the grammar of blinking lights and the cadence of a whistle. Nights lengthened into experiments. I watched the surface, cataloged the flash patterns, tapped the metal ladder to hear if it answered back. It never answered my voice, it answered the light. Once you start listening for the wrong things, the pool room rearranges itself. The fluorescent hum becomes conversation. Shadows take on the patient geometry of things that live beneath things. My safe job became a stakeout, a small teenage sentinel waiting for the world to explain itself. And when explanation did not come, curiosity, nastier and more honest than fear, pushed my hand toward the water. That's when the water did the unkind thing, when it winked and showed me that it knew how to wait. The first clear sign that waiting was not benign happened on the 3rd week. The lights spelled something that was not a wiring fault and not a prank. They spelled a word. At first, I ignored it. Who cares if lights buzz and blink? But the pattern sharpened, cutting through the still water like signals meant for me alone. Short, long, stubborn, insistent. I leaned over the rail, knuckles pressed white, convinced my brain was inventing it, until the shadow appeared. It rose slowly, like something remembering how to take shape. A boy's outline, flat against the tiles, features pressed like a photograph beneath glass. His hair floated up in lazy strands, drifting as if the water were his sky. His face was pale, distorted by the blue glow, but his eyes, if they were eyes, were wide open, staring back. My stomach pitched. I swore it was a trick of reflection, except my coworker saw it too. He froze halfway across the deck, towel slung over his shoulder, and muttered a name I didn't know. When I asked, he told me in a whisper, "That's the kid, the one who drowned here years back." No one had told me that in training. No one said this pool had a ghost. The silence afterward was suffocating. The air thickened, heavy with chlorine and something sour underneath. The water lost its sparkle. It looked darker, murkier, like the shadow had spread through it. I backed away, but my coworker, older, cockier, with too much to prove, said we had to check. I begged him not to. My voice cracked, a sound I hated, but he was already peeling off his shirt, sneakers squeaking against wet tile. His grin was shaky, a mask that didn't fit. "It's just a reflection," he said. "You'll see." He dove. The splash echoed like glass shattering, loud in the cavernous room. Ripples rolled outward, breaking the false calm. I leaned forward, scanning the water, waiting for his head to surface. Seconds stretched. Then the pool lights flickered again, more urgent, a strobe that painted the water in violent bursts of blue and white. Through the flashes, I saw them. Hands. Not one pair, but many. Small, pale, reaching up from the depths, closing around his arms, his shoulders dragging him down. I screamed. The sound bounced off the concrete walls, hollow and useless. I grabbed the rescue pole, jammed it toward the water, but the ripples fought me, the pole knocking against invisible resistance. My coworker's face broke the surface for a second, mouth wide, eyes panicked, and then he was yanked under again, swallowed whole. The water stilled. Perfect. Too perfect. The shadow boy was gone, but the tiles seemed darker, bruised with something that wasn't reflection. The whistle at my neck throbbed against my chest. I clutched it but couldn't blow. The silence wasn't waiting anymore. It was listening. And then, faint and deliberate, the lights blinked again. This time, I didn't need to guess what they were spelling. They spelled my name. The splash was sharp, then silence. No bubbles, no thrashing, nothing. Just stillness, like the pool itself had swallowed him in one clean gulp. I leaned over the edge, my eyes burning against the glow of the lights, searching for even a ripple. What I saw wasn't my coworker. The figure below spread wide, arms opening like a curtain, and it swallowed him whole. A shadow boy with impossible reach, his body dissolving into the dark as though the water itself obeyed him. My stomach knotted. I blew my whistle until my lungs tore, the shrill cry cutting across tile and concrete, but the pool didn't answer. It only stared back. I screamed his name, kicked at the water, slammed the rescue pole into the surface like I could churn him back up, but the pool was flat, too flat. The ripples died in seconds, surface glassing over, returning to its unnatural calm. My coworker was gone. Then, out of that dead calm, something broke the surface. Not him, his whistle. Floating gently, almost politely, as if it had been placed there. The silver chain caught the pool light, and it drifted toward me, bumping the tiles at my feet. I froze, because that whistle was dripping wet, and the tiles, bone dry. Something shifted under the water. I felt it before I saw it, the way you feel a storm pressing against your chest. The lights flickered again, rapid fire, a strobe that made the room feel like it was tearing apart. And in those flashes, I saw faces, not one boy, dozens. Mouths gaping, eyes wide and milk-colored, bodies pressed against the underside of the surface like flies against glass. Children, all watching, all waiting. The sound came next, a low hum deep enough to rattle the lane dividers vibrating through the metal ladder, climbing into my bones. A chant, wordless but rhythmic, timed with the blinking lights. The message wasn't Morse anymore. It was clearer, louder. They wanted me. I staggered backward, my sneakers squealing on the wet deck. But every step back, the lights flared brighter, hotter, like the pool was dragging the room closer. My shadow bent unnaturally long across the water, stretching out until it touched theirs. The whistle at my neck grew hot, burning. I ripped it off, but it stuck to my fingers, clinging like tar. And then the lights spelled it again, unmistakable this time. My name, glowing across the water in letters only I could read. The choice hit me like a wave. Run and leave him down there forever, or dive and risk joining the shadows. My legs shook. My chest heaved. But the pool was no longer asking. It was demanding. The water rippled without wind, rising as though it meant to climb out and claim me itself. So I did the only thing I could. I jumped. The water closed over my head like a door slamming shut. And for the first time, I realized the truth. This pool wasn't a place to swim. It was a mouth. And it had been hungry for a long, long time. I ran to call for help, the whistle still searing my palm. But when I looked back, the water was calm again. Too calm. Clear enough to see the bottom. No bubbles, no body, no shadow. Just the faint shimmer of the pool lights, still twitching in that deliberate code. They pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat, daring me to believe it had all been real. When I finally stumbled outside, the night air hit me like a slap. Crickets chirped. Cars rolled past on the empty street. The world was normal, insultingly normal, while I felt split wide open inside. I dialed the manager's number with trembling fingers, but by the time he arrived, the pool was back to its innocent municipal self. Tiles gleaming, water glassy, the whole place smelling faintly of chlorine and lemon. He didn't believe me. Not really. He nodded at my story, frowned at the missing lifeguard, and muttered something about kids sneaking in after hours, about accidents. But when he looked into the pool, he didn't keep his eyes there long. I noticed that. His jaw flexed, his hands fidgeted, and then he locked the doors without another word. By dawn, a taped-up sign dangled across the glass, closed for maintenance. Workers arrived in the morning with hoses and pumps, their chatter echoing in the empty chamber. I stood off to the side, still shaking, watching the water drop inch by inch. I waited for something, anything to float up. A body, a shoe, a scrap of cloth. But the pool gave back nothing. It only surrendered its silence. As the level dropped lower, the air turned strange, damp, metallic, like the inside of a cave. The smell clung to my throat. One of the workers muttered it reminded him of old stone. Another shivered and spat, said it felt like being watched. Nobody laughed at him. By noon, the pool was bare, stripped down to bone-white tiles, dry, lifeless. Yet in the deepest corner near the drain, something remained. A single whistle. Not mine, his. Resting there like it had been placed with care. Still dripping, though the tiles were dry. I crouched close enough to see my reflection bent across it. My own face staring back, distorted. My eyes wide the way his must have been in those last seconds. I wanted to reach for it, to snatch it up and prove I hadn't imagined everything. But something in me refused. My hand froze inches above it, like touching it would mean choosing to follow. The workers didn't notice. They packed up, whistling, actual whistling, tuneless and light, as if mocking me. The sound twisted my stomach. I slipped out before anyone could stop me. That night, the community center was dark, windows boarded, doors chained. But when I passed on my bike, I swore I heard it. Faint, hollow, drifting through the cracks. A whistle, calling me back. And in the darkness, the lights still flickered. The tiles were bone dry. Every inch scrubbed clean, the kind of sterile white that makes you doubt yourself, makes you think maybe none of it ever happened. Except for one thing. At the deep end, near the drain, lay his whistle, still dripping, fresh water sliding into the cracks long after the pool had been emptied. I stood there for a long time, longer than I should have, my breath fogging in that echo chamber of tile and silence. I should have picked it up, turned it in, closed the chapter, but I couldn't, because deep down, I knew it wasn't an object anymore, it was an invitation. The town tried to forget. They locked the doors, they shut the lights off. Kids whispered about why the community pool closed for repairs and never reopened. Nobody asked me directly, though some looked at me sideways, like I was carrying something contagious. And maybe I was. At night, I'd lie awake replaying it. The lights blinking, the hum under the water, the way his face broke the surface for just a second before the shadows pulled him under. I told myself 100 lies to survive it, that he'd escaped, that he was out there hiding. But when I closed my eyes, I could still feel the suction on my skin, the pull of that dark mouth waiting below. It wasn't done with me. I changed after that. Not braver, not exactly, but raw, stripped of the illusion that safety is real. I quit the job. Couldn't step near a pool without my hands shaking. And yet some nights, I catch myself standing outside the boarded windows, listening. The hum is still there, faint, like it's calling my name. The whistle never dried. I know because I went back, just once. slipped through a gap in the boards to see if it was still there, and it was. Waiting, wet, no dust, no decay, as if the pool itself kept it alive. So let me ask you, if you ever see pool lights flickering in strange patterns after dark, will you lean closer to read the message? Or will you run before the water decides it wants you to? Because me, I'm not sure I'll keep running. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like this video. It helps the channel grow and reach more people who crave a good scare. Subscribe so you never miss another tale waiting in the dark, and share this one with someone you know who would dare to read the signs. Thanks for watching, and remember, there's another story waiting for you on the screen right now. I'll see you tomorrow.